Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I love seeing so many of your faces. It's just been so awesome to get to be with you this week and feel like we're really getting to spend a lot of time together connecting with our future selves and making so much forward progress. I've gotten so many text messages and emails and just so much goodness from you guys telling me like, hey, this thing came up for me in my vision. And Elaine, I'm really excited about that. And tonight we get to meet and be together with two really amazing souls, Dr. Aditi Reddy and Dr. Weili Gray. We are so in for a treat. I have been looking forward to this part of our workshop for months, ever since I asked these ladies to participate, and they both said yes. I was just jumping up and down. Excited to welcome old friends and new to our visioning week. If you're brand new this night, welcome. This is somewhat of a standalone night. So even if you missed Monday and Tuesday night, you're going to get those replays in your email. Just enjoy tonight. Think of this as a fireside chat, friends getting together around a cup of coffee to be together and to learn from one another and inspire one another. And then you can catch up on the replays. And if you've joined us live the last two nights and you're back for a third night, welcome. My hope is that your mind is spinning and your heart is open about everything that's possible for you. And you feel like you're meeting that version of your future self and you're developing a real friendship and a real relationship with that future self. Someone sent me a message that they had a dream about their future self. And as dreams can be, some of the imagery was maybe a little bit confusing, but as they sat with it and processed it throughout the morning, they came to see the message that their future self was giving to them about what they're going to create next in their life. And maybe that's happening for you. As a psychiatrist, as a studier of human psychology, I know that our conscious minds, right, our frontal lobes, the parts of our brains that do things like executive functioning and concrete thinking and language and planning, they're a huge part of what makes us who we are. But our subconscious minds and even our unconscious minds, things like where we process emotion, where we process visualizations, where we have that sense of intuition, that inner sense of knowing, so much of that is processing throughout our entire day as we're going about our usual work day, as we're going about things with family or meals or the simple things that we do as we're sleeping. And my hope for you is that you trust in the process of the Visioning Workshop week, and you just know that even if you're not necessarily feeling things at the forefront of your mind, that things are moving inside of you. A big part of why I invite people to share their experience with visioning and how it has impacted their lives is because we as humans really bond over storytelling. We learn things logically, but we really embody things when we hear them in a story and when we hear them from people like ourselves and we hear their triumphs and their challenges, and it's a real human experience. And so that's what I'm so excited about tonight, is we get to explore a different part of visioning and we get to receive tonight. The last two nights we were putting out a lot of effort, right? Those were nights where you were working. I like to say visioning is a ton of fun, but it is a lot of work. It's a lot of creative, generative energy. And tonight we all just get to receive and have our cups filled back up. And we get to take that in and process it and start to think, maybe that's possible for me too. Or, man, I want something like that. Or I've had that thought before. I've had that challenge before. And when you see someone who's walked the path before you, all of a sudden it feels so much more doable. If you're new here this evening, welcome. I'm Dr. Elaine Stageberg. I am a wife of 15 years, my dear husband, Nick, who many of you know. We have 5 amazing children, a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 10-year-old. So our life is crazy and hectic and just kind of nonstop moving pieces. I'm a psychiatrist by training. I had the really good fortune of training at the Mayo Clinic, and so much of how I think about human development and behavior and visioning and goal setting comes from my training as a psychiatrist. I'm a real estate investor, a business owner. I have the great privilege of owning and operating multiple 7- and 8-figure businesses in real estate investment, property management, Freedom and Legacy Blueprint MD, which is really the highlight of my life, where I get to be with and coach and mentor and be in a community of physicians and other high-performing professionals. And I'm so glad you're here. If you're new to us and you were referred in by a friend, welcome. I believe you are in the right place. I think you're going to have a really amazing time tonight. You should have received your workbook in the email. It would have been the same email that had your Zoom link. We've popped it into our Facebook community as well. Our team will put it here into the Zoom chat. That's a great time for you to go grab that workbook if you still need it. Introduce yourself. Tell us your name. Tell us where you're from. Maybe you're starting to recognize some of the names and some of the faces of people that have been here together this week. Tell us what's coming up for you in your visions, right? You met your 10-year future self last night. You got to meet and spend even more time with your 3-year future self. What's coming up for you? Bring those things out into the world, declare them, even if they feel really scary and they feel really uncertain right now. There's a certain magic that comes from declaring that out into the world. So even just pick one thing that you want to share of what's coming up in your vision so that we can have that community sense tonight. I am going to pin now Dr. Aditi Reddy and Dr. Weili Gray. And we are going to get started with our time here together. Show these ladies some love. Let me find Weili. Where are you, my dear? Trying to find her screen. Rachel, is Weili in yet? Sorry.
I love it. She just joined.
Okay. There she is. Hi. Perfect timing, my dear. All right. So I have these beautiful souls pinned here tonight. These women are what I consider to be dear friends of mine. I feel so blessed that they are in my life. The only thing I'm sad about tonight is that I won't be able to take a ton of notes because I've got my microphone and my mouse and all the things. And those of you that know me know that when I want to soak up goodness, I have a pen and paper and I try to write down literally as much as I can, because I find that that really keeps me attuned and present and I can soak up all of the goodness. So I'm going to have to listen to the recording to do that portion of tonight. Tonight I just get to be present and be with you guys, and just I wish I could give you big hugs. Thank you so much for joining us. I thought I would start with introductions, but then I really thought that you guys have such, multifaceted personalities and dimensions to who you are that I think we would best be served if you introduced yourselves and tell us a little bit about who you are, what you're up to in your life. And then as we go through our time here together, we'll talk about how you've applied visioning to your life, maybe what things looked like for you before you were really a student of visioning, how things have transformed for you, some of the challenges that have come up, the amazing things that are happening for both of you. That's such the exciting part, right? That's what I'm salivating to hear all of that. I know, Weili, you're in a really special place in the world, and I'll let you share with everyone where you're joining us from. And then just share with us the wisdom that you've learned. Both of you are such wise people and have really taken this to heart and have transformed so many dimensions of your life. So why don't we get started? Just in alphabetical order, why don't we get started with your introduction first, Aditi?
All right. So good evening, everyone. Feel so honored and grateful to be here today with all of you. My name is Aditi. I'm an internal medicine hospitalist physician in the Bay Area, California. I'm a mom to 2 lovely kids, 8 and 6 years old. My husband is in the tech industry here. Um, I got into real estate investing about 2.5 years ago. And just about a year ago, at this time last year, I felt I was at a crossroads of my life, which is when I first met Elaine through her visioning workshop. And that set the tone for 2025, which is how I'm here today. So I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much for being here. It blows my mind that it's only been a year with how much you have created in the last year, and everyone's going to get to hear about that. It feels like it's been like a 5-year period.
Yes.
I'm excited to talk about that. Weili, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. Let me know if you can't hear me well. I'm on a balcony in a new city that we just arrived in yesterday. So we're in Colombo, Sri Lanka. And yesterday we were in the Maldives. So it's a little bit of a new environment for me. So I am, how do I start? I wasn't ready to introduce myself. I'm a sleep physician who works in a rural critical access hospital, and also a medical director there. And I have 3 kids. So we live in rural Vermont. I have 3 kids, ages 9, 11. You have to think about it because like 3 kids, it's hard to remember their ages. 9, 11, and 16 because they keep changing. And I'm married, 16 years. Let's see. And I'm not sure what else. Oh, we'll talk more about this later, but I think I first started like officially visioning maybe about 5 years ago. I did it in like formally. I did it sort of in spurts, and one of the things that I envisioned was really simple because I think like most physicians, I was really burnt out. And I think I was about 5 years into my attending career at that point, and I just wanted to actually feel peace in my life at that point. I just felt like I just wanted more peace. I wanted to be, I had this amazing life on paper, and I just didn't feel that I was living it. It's like, it's one thing that like, the numbers and the titles, like I was a mom, I was a wife, I was a physician, but I didn't feel like I was living any of that. And then so I started doing a formal process of visioning, and it's been about 5 years. And I don't even know because I need to keep track more of this, but now I was just walking right before coming in on a rooftop in a new city in Sri Lanka that I've never been to in my life. And I'm like, how is this my life? I'm going to pinch myself. So I do travel a lot. That wasn't even part of my vision, honestly, 5 years ago, but it's really, it's really helped. Everything just comes together. So I'll share more about that, but we do travel a lot. And I share some of my this year's photos in the Facebook group.
So good from both of you. I just love those introductions and hearing about you. And Weili, you kind of stole the question out of my mouth. Is, I know a decent amount about both of you, and life before, right? I'm kind of doing air quotes for anyone that's listening podcast style. Life before for both of you was a pretty good life, right? We all come into visioning with different backgrounds, different stories, even from year to year, right? Some of us are, maybe 2025 has been a tough year and has really worn us down, burnt us out, kind of burned up the energy that we have. For some of us, 2025 is like a good year, kind of cruising by, but nothing really special. For other people, 2025 has been absolutely amazing. And they're like, man, how can I get even more of this? How can I create exponential growth in 2026? And I know for both of you, before you really started doing like formal visioning and really purposefully and intentionally committing to your growth, you both had pretty good lives. But when you think about kind of before, how would you describe sort of who you were, what your identity was, maybe what like a normal day or a normal year was like? And then let's share that. I know Weili, you kind of shared some of that already. And then I'll come back and we'll do a volley and we'll talk about kind of how things look after that. Aditi, you want to get us started there?
Sure. So, before November of last year, that's totally right, Elaine. I had a great life on paper. I was, just a busy mom of 2, trying to spend quality time with kids. And during COVID was when I started thinking about financial freedom, more about finding, realizing that the biggest asset that I wanted to earn was just quality time with family. So that set me on the path of looking at real estate as a means to achieve this. So for 2 years before last year, when I got started in real estate investing, I started with growing my own small personal real estate portfolio. And just a few months after that, I got to join a real estate mastermind, which is where I got to meet many amazing friends, my future business partners. And I learned the economies of scale with what's possible when we invest together as opposed to investing individually, and how we can use the power of leverage. So I learned the nuts and bolts of that, but somehow I felt like I wasn't leading an aligned life, that I wasn't fulfilling what I was meant to fulfill. And I always felt this urge to do something on my own, have more agency, have more decision making power, into bringing the best projects for our investors. I wanted more control over that, and because it's such a sacred responsibility. So I would say, on average, I felt um, I didn't have as much control of my time and my life as much as I do this year, only because I feel much more aligned, in tune with what I'm meant to do this year.
What I shared, I think, in the first workshop when I went through the 8 domains in life, as I said, when your calendar reflects your identity, there's a sense of ease and flow. And that's where people have that sense that they feel it, and other people sense it too, of like, everything seems to come easy for them. And there's such a, how do they get so much done? And, all, these statements, it's because the calendar reflects the identity. It's truly that simple. And when the calendar doesn't reflect the identity, man, it can suck the energy out of someone really, really, really quickly. And seeing you adapt your calendar, and even thinking about what the next stages of calendar adaptation are for you, so that it reflects your identity more and more and more, I think that's where you get that beautiful glow and just that sense of energy and ease. Weili, I know you shared a little bit already about kind of what life was like for you before you started doing formal visioning, and for you it was about 5 years ago. But is there anything else you would add, maybe for someone that hasn't done visioning before and they're not quite so sure about, like, what is this future self thing? And this feels a little bit different than like goal setting or planning. It's certainly not a New Year's resolution. Like, what were some of the things that were in your thought process and in your identity before you really developed your visioning practice?
You hit the nail on the head, Elaine, in that before visioning, I didn't have an identity. I had lost my identity. And I think that's why I felt like all this suffering, even though I didn't call it suffering, but it felt like suffering. And I forgot who I was, because in the process of medicine or any sort of high intensity process that we go through professionally and personally, I had my first baby as an intern. And, everything was kind of a roller coaster from then on. I mean, not like medical school was a roller coaster also. And so somewhere along the way, even though I always thought of myself as a strong, resilient person, I just started just surviving. Like, surviving was good. And so I didn't have an identity. I knew that, like, on paper, I'm a doctor, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, but I didn't really know who I was. And that's actually what the visioning helped me with. It's like the spark that brought life back. And so I think that's, if people listening here kind of feel like that, they're just going through the motions every day. The first step in the visioning is kindling your identity back. Like, who are you? And for me, I probably had lost it, in the almost 10 years from like getting into medical school and then going through residency. And so it's sort of like a slow, gradual loss, and you don't realize it when it's happening. And so I think that was the key for me.
And I know I started at the beginning, I'm like, I won't be able to take notes because I got my microphone and everything, but I found a way, because you guys are just, there's so much knowledge here. Even I have to take notes. That's why I keep looking down. I have my trusted pen in hand, of writing down things like I had lost my identity and that surviving was good. And it felt like suffering, even though you didn't know, that was the word. And, Aditi, you used the words like it didn't feel aligned, and that you wanted more agency, more control, right? If you're hearing these things and you're like, I think those things too, or those things are bubbling up for you this week. We're going to hear in these ladies' stories where they are today, right? They've both already given some inkling, and I know I have this week too, as I've just been so effusive of like, I can't wait for you to hear these stories, and they're so good. And there's so much goodness that they've created in their life. So if you're hearing those things, like, you are absolutely in the right place, and I'm so glad you're here. If you can think to maybe the first time you did visioning, or the first time you really intentionally did visioning, different from goal setting, different from maybe, yearly planning that you might have done before, but really thinking about having that relationship with your future self and getting wisdom and guidance from that person. What was that experience like for you? Was it intuitive? Was it kind of weird? Was it easy at first? Was it hard at first? If you can remember what that, maybe first or some of those early connections with your future self were like, can you share that? That's kind of a bigger question. So I'll let whichever one of you feels ready to answer the question go first.
So, Elaine, the last year was the very first time I had done any formal visioning. So I think many of us always set goals, but visioning is just a different level. So, um, it was a bit of a weird process for me because I couldn't believe some of the things that were coming down on paper. Um, for example, this moment stands out in my brain from last year. Up until last year, my goal had been that I should achieve financial freedom in 6 years. And that was my goal on paper. I thought that is what has to happen. But when we were doing the 3 year visioning, you challenged us that maybe something that we thought was further out on the horizon is perhaps possible in 3 years. So I decided to trust you in that moment. And I
Mm.
and I wrote down that I'm going to achieve financial freedom in 3 years. And as I was writing it, I remember laughing and saying, this is unrealistic. This is absurd. There is no way this is happening. But what the heck? I'm the only one who's going to see this. So I wrote it down anyway. And so those kind of moments stick out in my brain because it seemed really crazy
Mm-hmm.
to say certain things. But I can honestly say 1 year later, that is happening. I will achieve financial freedom in 3 years. It's no longer absurd. And it's just magical, what can happen when you're aligned in the right direction. It just feels things do happen more easily.
Mm-hmm. My face literally hurts from smiling. Because I know I said that, right? I said it yesterday of whatever number you want, double it, triple it, add a zero, write even more or no less than, right? Or at least. And I admit that sometimes, like, here's my vulnerability for all of you guys. Sometimes when I'm like kind of coaching through these things, I know in my heart that I feel a ton of certainty. But I also know that sometimes in the ear of the receiver, in the mind of the receiver, not necessarily the heart of the receiver, but in the mind of the receiver, there's a sense of like, is she crazy? Like what is she talking about? Am I in the right place? And so to hear it from someone else, that's what I want you guys to hear, that is a very common experience. And I can't explain it, and I don't take any credit for it. There's something about the human experience and how we attune our nervous system. There's a lot of neuroscience behind it. There's, co-creating with our fellow humans and being in supportive communities where we're mirroring to each other. There's the energy of the universe or God or source, or however you define that. And it happens time and time again, just like you described, Aditi, that there's like this, first there's this sense of like, I can't believe I'm writing this down, but this crazy woman is telling me to, so I will. And then you look at it again, 3 months later, 6 months later, a year later, and it's like, wait a second, that is happening for me, or that already has happened for me. I absolutely love that share. So beautiful. Weili, how would you comment on some earlier visioning for you and maybe what that experience was like for you?
I think it started with writing down the things that were important to me. And I think how old was I when I was probably around 40 years old when I did that. And it's amazing to think that most people go through life, like some people may go through their entire lives without writing things that are really important to them down. It's just not, we don't do that in school. We don't, like, there's nothing that formally have humans do this. And And just by writing it down, it starts to come alive, like Elaine is saying. And so the process I went through, I started writing things down that I thought maybe I was supposed to write down. And then, I went a layer deeper and a layer deeper. And then I wrote down, like if I were to die in 24 hours, what would my regrets be? And so it got really, really deep and sort of like urgent. And so I wrote all of that down, and then it got weaved into a vision, like a movie, like what Elaine is saying, like I sort of pictured the elements that were so important to me, and I put it in a vision, like a movie, like a moment in time. And, I think it was at that point I visualized something in 6 months from now, which is really close, right? There is value in envisioning short-term and long-term. And so like in 6 months, and it was a really simple scene. That's what Elaine is saying. Like, as you're saying some of this, like the other person's like, well, yeah, of course they could have it. But in my mind, like it was this scene where I was just like at my house, in my backyard, and my kids are playing and the sun is shining, and I'm just sitting there enjoying the moment and hearing my kids laugh. And then my husband, turns to me and says, I see you've been so happy in the last 6 months. I'm so proud of the person that you're becoming. And just simple little things. There was no money that was needed. Like, there was nothing fancy involved. And yet at that time in my life, like, that's what I couldn't get, because I normally I would look at my kids and I'm thinking of like the 5 million things that are supposed to be done. Like, I couldn't just sit there and enjoy the moment, enjoy what I already have. And so when that vision was created, I started like crying and bawling. And so that's when like when it really hits, because it's like that's what's really important at the end of my life. Like that's what I value the most. So that I think it's like resonance, resonance with your soul, that you hit that right. Like what you were saying in the last 2 days, from The Alchemist, I'm paraphrasing, but to realize one's destiny is a person's one and only obligation. And so we owe ourselves, as we're given the gift of life, to just sit back and reflect and then envision what is our destiny, and what's a scene. It doesn't have to be your whole destiny, but what's a scene from your destiny.
Yes. This is just such a beautiful time together. And again, I wish I could just give you guys just big hugs, real and live in the flesh. That it was just so beautiful what the two of you described. And we literally had like no scripting, no planning. I emailed them. I said, hey, I'm going to talk a little bit about what life was like for you in the beginning of visioning. We'll talk a little bit about what life is today. Just be your beautiful, amazing selves. And I literally couldn't have planned this better, that visioning is this beautiful thing of the big, crazy goals, the things that when you write them down, right? Financial freedom, changing the way you spend your time. What does your year look like? Weili, we'll talk about the travel that you're doing today. That's one of those things that's, completely life-changing. Visioning is about that, about capturing all of that goodness. That's what Aditi shared. And then it's also about capturing what we want in just any given Tuesday, any given Thursday, any given Saturday. How do we feel when we wake up in the morning? How do we move about our day? What's our energy? How are we restoring our energy throughout the day? What does our nervous system feel like? How are the people around us? And I just love that the two of you shared that when you first started visioning, you captured both of that, right? You captured those big goals that are monumental life changes. And then you also captured the things of like, I also want to enjoy just regular life too, right? Just, I want to wake up in the morning. I want my husband to look at me and say, you've been so happy, right? Like what a beautiful thing. Literally my face hurts from just smiling so much tonight, you guys. Before we keep going, I just want to pause here for a moment, because what you're hearing right now, like, look at their beautiful faces, look at their eyes, hearing the ease in their voices, the clarity in their decisions, the growth you can feel as they're describing their visioning experiences. None of that happens by accident. Visioning is a very intentional process. It doesn't come from hoping. It doesn't come from reading a book. I'll say it again. I've said it the last couple workshops because it's such an important lesson that I want you to take home. Humans sometimes make decisions based on information. We rarely make decisions based on information. We sometimes make decisions based on emotion. We almost always make decisions based on identity. And as humans, being such social creatures, a big part of where we create our identity and we forge it and we explore it and we explore expanding it is when you place yourself in an environment that's designed for that kind of transformation, where your identity up levels and your goals stick and you have people who are supporting you and you're not doing it alone and people are mirroring that energy back to you. And so I'd like to take just a few minutes to show you what a container like that looks like, because for many of you, that's the missing piece. That's the nudge that you're looking for. And then we'll come back and we'll talk to these ladies about what they've created in their visions. They have amazing things to share. And I'm curious to hear for both of you, what you want to share about what's coming up for you in your next 3-year vision and your next 10-year vision. And these stories are going to get even better. I shared yesterday that for the first time in a year, we have opened enrollment for Freedom and Legacy Blueprint MD. This is not a course. It's not a group chat. It's not something to add to your to-do list. It's not a set of tasks. It's not something you sign up for and just forget about. It is a year-long, high-touch, high-caliber coaching, mentorship, and most of all, community experience for high-achieving physicians and professionals who are done settling for a life that's good enough, right? Weili said it so well that I had lost my identity. It felt like suffering, like surviving was good enough. You want to step into the life that you actually want with clarity, with momentum, with support. We're going to hear directly from these ladies what life looks like for them today. And it's awe-inspiring. They are living their real identities. They're living in alignment. The way they spend their time and their resources and their money reflects all of that. And that's what you can create in the right container. So if for you life has felt hectic or heavy or chaotic, or you have that sense that so many of us have had where you wake up and you're like, man, I know there's something more, right? Like I've checked the boxes, I've done the things. A lot of times we feel guilt or shame about that. We don't want to tell anyone about it because we're like, I should feel happy, right? I have the house, I have the things, I have the career. Like, why do I feel like there's a sense that I need something more? That's your future self, right? That's your future self calling you forward and saying, this one beautiful life that we have, it is meant to be lived to the absolute fullest, right? We get this, we get so much possibility and so much abundance and so much expansion. We have to step into it. And if that's you, that's exactly who we created Freedom and Legacy Blueprint for. We have weekly calls that really focus on mindset and identity, and we come back to vision alignment, and we talk about how do you show up differently? How do you show up differently in your own self, at work, with your family, in your goals, in your relationships, in your day-to-day life? You're surrounded by this beautiful community, these brilliant people, heart forward, heart open people, leaders, high performers that really have this beautiful balance. What I love is we're strivers and we're go-getters and we have these huge, big goals and we are running toward them with full steam. And yet we are also extremely heart open and extremely loving and nurturing and warm and collegial with each other. And we have a super vibrant WhatsApp group where we talk about everything from exercise and travel and kids and vacations and asking for raises and promotions, like you name it, we're all there supporting each other day in and day out. You get coached directly by me and we get under the surface. I bring everything that I've created in my life over the last years of training as a psychiatrist and doing years and years and years of study in human development and being an entrepreneur and a business leader and leading multiple 7- and 8-figure businesses, a real estate investor with over 450 million in assets under management. I bring all of that together and I focus on whatever it is that you raise your hand and you ask about. And we unpack whatever it is that you're working on. We look at the invisible patterns that are keeping you stuck. We collapse the timeline between who you are that you've created in that 10 and that 3-year vision. and who you want to be and who you want to be now, right? We want to collapse that timeline as much as possible. We talk about the 8 categories: mastering time and energy, building wealth with intention, designing your time instead of feeling like time is just marching by and you're just merely showing up to life. You create a life that feels like you, that feels like your identity and who you want to be. And there's no room for shrinking. There's no room for what will people think of me, or I'm not allowed to have that big of a goal, or I don't know if I should say that, or I don't know if I should share the number or the thing. There's too much of that out in the real world, so to speak. In Freedom and Legacy, people are eager to cheer you on and eager to hear, because we believe that if it's possible for you, then it's possible for everyone. And we're like, yes, like go out and get it and be an example of what's possible and bring it back to the group. And there's this spirit of collaboration that's unlike anything else I've seen in other groups. I'm so proud of that psychological safety and that community that we've created in Freedom and Legacy. I would say when I think about why people join Freedom and Legacy, they tend to join for their goals. They sense something in their 10-year vision or their 3-year vision that they want to connect to. A lot of people have found me through the world of real estate investing, and so they want to come for the real estate education. We have a ton of that. There's multiple, like dozens of courses of videos in the vault. We have a quarterly real estate call, and anytime you can raise your hand and ask about real estate investing. That's just one of the examples of the reason that people, often will come into Freedom and Legacy. But people stay for the identity shift. And I shared yesterday, our renewal rate is 88% in an industry where it's usually somewhere around 25 or 30%. And that's because in Freedom and Legacy, people come in and they come out the other side unrecognizable in the best way possible. And when you see me light up about it and just I have this like effusive energy, it's because I see that with so many people. And there is something that is so infectious and intoxicating about that. And I look forward to our call every single week. And I look forward to checking in on the WhatsApp chat and being together in our 2 events that we have each year and seeing those transformations and seeing it unfold in real time is just so beautiful. And I want you to be a part of that if you feel like this is on your heart. And then what I see is the results that follow, very tangible, real results. And we're going to hear that in just a few minutes from Aditi and Weili. Businesses are launched, real estate portfolios expand. Aditi's going to talk about that. Marriages are strengthened, bonds with children and friends and your own parents and your neighbors and your communities. Careers are transformed, finances wildly expanded, time reclaimed, a sense of ease and presence and flow and love in life, all of those things that make all of the achievement of our outward goals, that much more special. Those are the tangible results that follow the identity shift that happens inside of Freedom and Legacy. Let me take just 2 more minutes and tell you about the structure that we've put together that supports you in getting these outcomes, because the structure is a big part of why it works. I've put a lot of intentionality into creating a really simple and safe structure inside of Freedom and Legacy to make it so that your transformation is inevitable. The main backbone of Freedom and Legacy is our weekly live coaching calls. We talk about mindset, visualization, identity work, leadership, wealth building, real estate, investing, all of it real-time support. I usually do some teaching. We do a lot of what I call open frame coaching, where you just raise your hand and you share what's on your heart and we coach on that. And I really try to make sure that you get what you need and that as you're listening to others being coached, you see what's applicable to you, because our stories are all so similar and there's so much learning that happens in that growth setting. I've talked so much about the community because that is such a huge part of the value of Freedom and Legacy, such a high caliber community who understands you and is eager to elevate you and to be in the room with you. We have 2 immersive events. The first is, as part of your membership of Freedom and Legacy Blueprint, you get 4 tickets to Black Swan Real Estate's Real Estate, Real Life event. You get 2 in person and then 2 virtual tickets. You can share those virtual tickets with a friend so that you can come in person or vice versa. It's September 17th through the 20th here in Rochester, Minnesota. It's an amazing event where we talk about exactly that: real estate, investing, education, and then real life. We do some visioning, we do some breath work, you get to network with some amazing people. We do a tour of the portfolio and you get like a master's degree in real estate, investing, education, all crammed into one weekend. And then we also have an optional add-on Freedom and Legacy Blueprint only event where only members of Freedom and Legacy and their spouses can come. That's tentatively planned for the first weekend in November of 2026. Still working on finalizing the final details for that. You get our complete framework of trainings, recordings, exercises, guided practices. There's literally hundreds of videos. You can kind of think of it as an exhaustive whole life encyclopedia inside of our Kajabi platform. You get access to all of that. When you join Freedom and Legacy, I encourage your spouse or your partner to also participate. Probably about half of people have their spouse or partner participate. And then within that group, there's a pretty wide range in terms of the amount of participation, but that is included right in your tuition, and your spouse would also be invited to the Freedom and Legacy exclusive event that we have in November. And then for this year in 2026, I'm so excited to share that we've been approved for 30 hours of Category 1 CME. We've partnered with Pinnacle to make that happen. So you would be able to use your CME dollars and advance your professional education while you're advancing your personal development. As part of that partnership with Pinnacle, we have Category 1 AMA CME. We also have the CME that's for nurses, pharmacists, physicians assistants, social workers, psychologists, optometrists, dietitians, dentists, and athletic trainers. So if you're in one of those professions and you have a question about the continuing education credits that we have available, shoot me a message and I'll share with you the partnership that we have with Pinnacle to get those 30 hours. And then you get all of that in a space where you can show up as your fullest self and be met with clarity and compassion and love and joy, and get to step into the identity that you know you're meant to live, and that you are excited because you created it in your 10-year vision and your 3-year vision, and be surrounded by people that are doing that day in and day out and doing that work together. The investment for the full year of Freedom and Legacy Blueprint is $15,000 with our pay in full discount, or we do have a payment plan if that's what you'd like to do. That's 4 monthly payments of $39.99. You can see all of this at freedomandlegacyblueprint.com. I think Rachel will probably also put the link in the chat here. We'll put it in the replay email, freedomandlegacyblueprint.com. It's also in your workbook. And I just invite you, if you've been feeling the pull, if there's an intuitive yes in you, if there's a nudging in you, if there's something in you that feels like this is the next step for you, it's probably not accidental. That's probably your identity reaching for you and saying, hey, this is the next step for you. This is the container, the coaching, the mentorship, the community. Trust that inner knowing and say yes to yourself. It's simple to enroll, just takes about a minute. If you have any questions, you can connect with Rachel, email me, DM us, reach out to the team. We want to make sure you're well taken care of. If this feels like a yes for you, I'm so excited to welcome you into our 2026 cohort. We've had an amazing group that has joined us. 88% of our folks from 2025 will be there through renewals. We've had an amazing group that has joined us last night, and I welcome you in if you're next. Let's take a deep breath. And I know these decisions, they land differently for each of us. And I want you to just sit with and explore whatever's coming up for you. For some, it's excitement. This is a hell yes, let's go. You're already at the website. You're already signing up. For others, there may be some curiosity. Keep sitting with that, exploring that. Reach out if you have any questions. And for some, there may be like a little fear, a little sense of, I'm not sure if I belong, or is that too big for me, or can I do that? And I just encourage you to explore all of that and to know that all of that is welcome, and keep connecting to your future vision and your future self, and listen to these stories this evening and trust that the correct answer will come back to you. So with all of that, let's go back to our dear friends here, Aditi and Weili. And I want to hear from you guys. We talked about what life was like for you when you first started visioning. You've both hinted a little bit at how life is today, but let's go like straight to the good stuff. Like the life that both of you are leading, they're both so extraordinary. And one of the reasons I asked the two of you to come is they're both so extraordinary, but in such different ways, right? There's things about you that are similar. You're both women, you're approximately the same age, you're both moms, but your daily life is so different. And each of them is so aligned with exactly what you want and what you're creating. So why don't we start with you, Aditi? Tell us, like, what is life like today? What have you created with visioning? And then we'll have Weili answer that question. And then I want to hear if you're ready to share. I know it's just visioning week, so these things are new and you're just still exploring them. But what's next for you? What are you thinking about for 2026 and beyond? What's life like today, though, my dear?
Okay. So, something interesting happened last year after the visioning workshop. It was only about not even a month after the visioning workshop ended. I came together with three amazing physician partners, and we founded our company called Lightyear Capital. And
Mm-hmm.
that set the stage for 2025 for me. That finally gave the avenue for direction agency that I was seeking all along. Um, to put things in context, in the past 9 months, as a group, and I can scarcely believe I'm saying this, but as a group, we have been able to place approximately $45 million of investor capital into amazing investments. And uh, narrowing down more to even my own, growing my own investor base. Last year in 2024, I was able to place maybe somewhere around uh, maybe 800,000 or so of investor capital. But in 2025, that 10x into over 8 million, which completely feels overwhelming. And if you had told me this last year, I would not have believed it. But just I feel such an overwhelming sense of gratitude that these are my closest friends and family who've trusted me with this. And I need to do the most incredible job, to be a safe steward for them. In Also in the last 9 months, we were also able to have a partial sale of one of our land projects. We were able to return, about a quarter of our investors' capital to them within 3 months of their placement, which was extremely satisfying, and I want more of that for them. And to top it off, I would say the most recent project that we did, this was our smallest capital raise yet. For It started off as 3 million, but when we opened the doors to our investment, it filled up in 2.5 minutes. And that was an incredible feeling, to be the recipient of of just the trust and faith that people place in us. And that makes us want to set much higher standards for us, and to never let these people down. These are our
Mm-hmm.
friends, our family, our neighbors, people we went to school with. And it feels like a joy. It feels, it is a responsibility, but not like a burden. It feels like we get to do this. And that has completely transformed my 2025. And yeah, a year ago, none of this would have been sounded believable to me, but here we are. And I feel it all started with visioning, which set alignment and identity. So I know I'm not spinning in a circle wondering which direction to go. I just know, okay, I'm headed 15 degrees northwest. And that made a whole lot of difference. And I felt that with visioning, I was like clearing a dirty window pane, and I could just clearly see what's ahead. So there was no confusion, in my mind. So it was much easier to make decisions, which got me closer to that. So yeah, I can scarcely believe what 2025 has been like, but I feel like it started with the germination with visioning.
Mm. I'm so glad I have my pen and paper out because I wrote down your numbers, and even seeing you week in and week out, there's still something that's so powerful about hearing the summary of the whole year, right? For those of you that are not in the real estate industry, these numbers are out of this world. Like these are probably in the top 1% or 0.5% of outcomes in terms of large real estate deals. 45 million, going from less than $1 million that you raised yourself last year to 8 million. That's a big number, right? Like, and then a raise that fills in 2.5 minutes, like that, it's mind blowing, right? It's hard to comprehend it. As you think about, are you frozen there, my dear? Oh, I think maybe Aditi's frozen. I want to make sure she hears my question. I think she's frozen, so I'm going to come back to that. The question I'm going to ask her when she comes back is about time management, right? Of these are big things to add into life. She's already a physician. She's already a mom. She's already a wife. How did she bring those things in? I'm sure she'll join us back here in just a minute. But while she's handling that tech trouble, Weili, tell us about
can I just add something? So Aditi's been my classmate for the last year plus, and I had no idea how any of this. I mean, I've chatted with her, I've gone to like in-person events with her, and this is the amazingness of this group. Like this community is just like out of this world. Like it's an amazing room to be in, and everyone is just like a person, but they're just doing amazing things, and I love that about this group.
So good. So good. Aditi, glad you're back. Weili was cheering you on of like, she didn't even know, the full extent of all of these amazing things that you've done. The question I have for you is, I was sharing with the group, like, these are really outsized outcomes, right? These are not just like ho-hum, like run of the mill. These are in the top, probably 1 or even 0.5% in real estate outcomes. How did you create that in your life? You're already a mom, you're already a wife, you're already very close with your mom, you've traveled to India, you're a physician. Some people might be feeling like, well, I'm already, like, I have no extra time, or I'm already, just burnt out or running on empty. Those goals sound amazing, but I wouldn't have time to create them. That's often a bottleneck for so many of us. How did you do that?
So I think when I was reflecting on this year, I think there were 3 things that I did differently in 2025, which helped set the stage for it. The first was clearly visioning. So I knew which direction I'm pointed in. But then, secondly, what I did differently this year was I tried to detach myself from the outcomes of whatever I was doing in that moment. I just told myself, preconditioned myself that I would be, loyal to the process and give it my best, but I'm not going to worry about the outcome. So that immediately removed any pressure to perform for me. And also, preconditioning the mind that I would accept whatever happens with gratitude, because that's what the universe decided to give me. And that completely removed me from a pressure cooker situation of having to achieve a goal to, I'll accept what you give me with gratitude. I'm just going to do my best, and I'll take what you give me. So often I've seen this over and over this year, that led to outsized returns than what I would have predicted, maybe if I pigeonholed myself to an outcome. So that was interesting to see. And I think thirdly, what was also different was, in order to let go, you have to have some trust that things will be okay, that you will get a desired outcome eventually, if not now, later. And it was that trust bit that I probably didn't have as much before, that I had this year. And I feel what changed this year was also, I lost my father last year. And a lot of you on this call know that my dad was my hero.
Mm-hmm.
He was my North Star and my role model for everything in life. He had also, in his early 40s, left a well-paying job to jump into real estate in India, and went on to do that very successfully for 30 years. And he was a man who was ahead of his times, who taught me optimism and perseverance, to never give up, to always help people even if there's nothing in it for me, and just set the standard, I guess, of values that families try to impart to them. So I felt that, even though dad was no longer physically with me, I felt a strong feeling that he's now a part of the fabric of the universe. And he's probably even more with me now than before when he was across oceans away and 2 plane rides away. And I mean, there's a story involving my great grandmother, which I feel, is somewhat parallel to this. So my mom actually told me this just this year. I don't know why I didn't know about it before, but my great grandmother was the only daughter amongst 9 children. She had 8 brothers, the only daughter. So she was the apple of her dad's eye. She grew up, she got married, she went to a neighboring village to live with her husband, and then every few months she would make the trip to see her parents. Now, in those days, there were only dirt roads, and the way of travel was a cart, which was, driven by oxen, and it could be a bumpy ride. So her dad loved his daughter so much that he would wake up early in the morning on the days that his daughter was due to visit him. He would walk for miles along the path that his daughter would take, and he would remove big stones and pebbles out of the way so his daughter would not have a bumpy ride. And I feel like that's an example of a parental love, and I feel like my dad is doing that for me right now. He's
Mm,
removed all the obstacles in my path, and I feel like more like, I'm a spectator to what's happening. And it's just my dad now has more power. So he's helping his daughter from beyond. So I don't take credit for any of, what's happening. I feel like it's just dad being dad, even if he's not with me. And that helps me build trust that no matter what's happening in the moment, my dad's favorite phrase was, now that we're here, what next? And never looking back at what happened, but always looking forward. And, I just feel more comfortable that if I walk alongside his values, it's the same as walking alongside him.
mm,
So, so that builds the trust for me that it's okay to let go of the outcomes because, things will be okay. And that leads to such a freedom and a lightness. There's a lightness. There's no pressure to perform. I don't feel any pressure for the years ahead because it doesn't matter. You do your best, what's meant to be will be.
yeah. And I love how you have incorporated not just the wisdom of your future self, but almost like your dad and his future self, right? Or the wisdom that he imparted to you all of the years that he was physically on this earth. And then now he's a part of kind of the guidance of your future vision. It's such a beautiful way that you've incorporated both your future self and this really important relationship in your life and the love that comes from that to guide you. And I think you really hit the nail on the head too when you said like you're not spinning anymore, right? So many of us get stuck in that and we don't even realize that that's what's happening, right? Because we mistake activity for productivity. And so when you have that alignment, you know exactly where you're going. You feel a deep connection to the identity of it. You feel the sense of love and expansion and gratitude, and kind of all of those things come together. All of that is exactly what we talk about when we say master time and energy, right? Of course, there's things like delegating and automating and deleting, but there's becoming a master of time and having a completely different relationship with time than what is typical. And you just so beautifully described all of the things that you've brought here together. You should see the chat. Everyone is saying, wow, this is so beautiful and so meaningful and so moving. So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. So good. Weili, tell us a little bit about what life is like for you. When Aditi's computer glitched there for a second, you said this group is like out of this world, and I kind of chuckled because I'm like, well, you're literally the one out of the world. You're literally the one joining us from Sri Lanka on a hotel balcony, right at 6 a.m. or whatever it is there. Tell us about what life is like for you, and particularly I would love to hear, because I think it'll be so moving for people as you weave in the earlier versions of you that probably couldn't believe what you're about to say.
I think the main thing is life now really feels like flow. Like it feels like it flows. And I mentioned in my Facebook post to the group that I've actually had some of the most challenging things happen in the last year or two professionally. It's been very stressful at work. And that's why I'm so grateful for this group. Actually, one of the earliest lessons, I've been a member since Elaine started this group. So however many years, that 3 years ago, I've lost track, but since the very beginning. And one of the first things that we sort of shared and learned in the group is, when life is hard, how we respond to that. Like that's, like, I can't even, Elaine has all the great like gems that she says, but it's life is going to be hard, right? Like life will have hard moments, and how we respond to that is everything. Like that's actually going to be growth points for us. That's going to be like the turning points in our life is, when we have the hard things happen. And it really was like that, where I think I went through hard things before, and residency almost broke me, almost broke my marriage, it broke me as a person almost. And, now 10 years later, this very difficult series of things have happened at work, and it could absolutely have broke me, but instead it's made me so much stronger. I'm not saying this is easy, right? So like there are moments, like there are weeks when I raise my hand in the coaching and I'm like, I just don't feel like myself anymore. I'm suffering. Like, what can I do? Here's what's happening. How can I sort of course redirect this? But what I think I've been the most proud of this past year, is how I had things planned on my calendar to have an amazing life, to have, these experiences with my family and my kids, and sort of putting the non-urgent things urgently. And then all these other things that could feel like they're so urgent, so end of this world, like so weighing someone down, which would have weighed me down. I was able to go through it with ease. And so that involves like having difficult conversations, that involves making hard decisions. It's like all the things. And that's actually what Elaine was saying, like no one lives a dream life by accident. When you see somebody and you think, wow, they have it so great, that didn't happen by accident, right? Because every person who's living a great life, they're living a great life because they went through really hard things, and it's the way they responded to that. And I think this year, like no one wishes for hard things to happen to them, but I think this year, the last year and two years has really been that. And so me being in this group has, like, I felt like I was at the right place at the right time, because I don't think I would have been able to make such sweet lemonade out of all the lemons that was being thrown into my life.
Wow. I've never heard you quite say it that way. It almost brings tears to my eyes. I'm a little sort of flushed hearing all of that. It's just so beautiful. For those that haven't seen your introduction yet in the Facebook group, tell us a little bit about what life looks like for you this past year. You've described how life has felt, and how even despite some big challenges professionally, you've felt good and you've felt aligned and you've felt a sense of ease. If we were flipping through your calendar, what would we see?
So some of this is like when you sort of write down your dream life, or you write down like snippets of this is what my identity is, this is who I am, things start to flow. So I didn't write down that I want to be, traveling to a new country every month and, working as an employed physician, and making more money every year as an employed physician. But I just sort of follow the flow, and that's what I'm doing. And I think this year I went to, with my family, I went to Japan, to Dubai, to Mexico City. Where else did I go? Iceland, Palau, which is like a paradise island in Micronesia. Currently, just went to the Maldives and Sri Lanka. So there's this long, and Africa, my favorite continent in the whole wide world. So I've just been traveling the world and with my kids, opening them. We live in rural Vermont. So one of my values was really part of my legacy as a mother, because we all have limited time with our kids, with the people who can influence in our life. Part of my legacy building is to show them more than, what's right in front of them. And so through this traveling and all these experiences and these adventures, I have built this amazing relationship with my entire family and my kids. One of my kids went through, we had a total loss house fire 10 years ago. And that, I think, really traumatized, one of my kids, who was only 4 at the time. And he went through a lot of hard things, and every single one of my kids, they have grown so much as a result of these experiences that I've given them in their life. And so it's just really amazing. And what my goal is, at the end of my life, as I'm on my deathbed, that like, I'm just gonna be flooded with this amazing life that happened. And I'm gonna have no regrets about, living life to the fullest all the time. And at the same time, as I was mentioning, actually, what I didn't mention was, before I did this visioning, I was like a spreadsheet person. I would track my net worth, like, this is how much I'm investing. And then I got to like one of them, a first milestone. And it felt incredibly lonely, because I was like, well, who do I share this with? Okay, I'll share it with my husband. And he's like, okay, great. He doesn't even really care that much about money. And then maybe like one friend who I trusted. And so now I don't really focus that much on money, although a lot of that is automated. And yet, the money keeps flowing in. And I think that's part of the like living life in flow. Things just start to resonate. And so that's our destiny. And that, I think, is priceless, because I used to always be worried, like, what's going to happen to my kids? Oh, he has some trauma from our house fire, this child has this. And it's not to say that there are no problems in our life. We have, lots of current problems, but there's an optimism and an energy and like, we're able to get this, that is priceless.
So good. So good. One of the things we do in Freedom and Legacy is we structure out our year. So tomorrow, when you come to the visioning workshop tomorrow on Thursday at 7 p.m., we're going to do our 2026 action plan, where we're going to really bring home that 10-year and that 3-year vision into the 1-year vision. And we'll even do some quarterly planning. And one of the things we do when we first start Freedom and Legacy is we've these big calendars. They take up like almost the entire wall back here. I have 100 of them in the office right over there, all ready to go for the members in 2026. And we spell out, like, when are we traveling? When are we going to conferences? When are the birthdays? What are the weekends away? All of the things. I loved how you phrased it, Weili, like making the non-urgent urgent, because there's always something urgent, right? There's always an email. There's always a problem to solve. There's always a laundry basket. There's always something. But when we put it in a visualization and we have it prominently displayed and we're sharing it with each other to say, this is what I'm doing this year. This is what I'm creating. This is where I'm going. Yours has the most dots all over it. You're all over the whole world, but you're an example for all of us as what's possible, right? Like, we all look to you of like, if you want to travel, go to Weili, talk to her, right? She's all over the whole world. She's figured out the points thing. She's figured out how to make it work with kids, with school, with all the things. But just making that, putting it in the calendar and putting that first, and then building regular life around that, right? And that way you have that flood of memories when we all get to the end of life. It's just so beautiful. You guys just have so much wisdom. I'm glad I pulled out my pen and paper, even though my desk is all crammed, because I've taken so many notes here. If someone is thinking about joining Freedom and Legacy, right? You both had to make this decision. Weili, right, when we first started, before we ever even had a formal program, right? You took a bet on this thing that didn't even exist. And then Aditi, last year, when you didn't know me all that well, right? And you came to the visioning workshops and you were new to this world. So you both had a little bit of a different experience as you made that decision. What would you say to someone who is thinking about that right now?
So, Elaine, I joined Freedom and Legacy just to be around your energy. And what I saw in the visioning workshop was so startling. It was so different from anything I'd experienced before that I just wanted more of Elaine in my life. So that is why I ended up joining Freedom and Legacy. But I didn't know the caliber of individuals that are in FLBMD. Like, everybody is so incredible, so giving of themselves, of their energies, of their time, of their support to each other. Um, I don't think there's anything like this out there, honestly, because when you join Freedom and Legacy, you will see that it's a group filled with high performers who already have great lives and who are looking for something more, and finding the support and the resources within this group, in a completely no judgment zone. There is no shaming of big goals. A lot of times, sometimes many people maybe in our orbit may not get why we go after the things we go after. There's sometimes a sentiment of, but aren't you happy? You already have enough already. So there is an understanding of, why we aspire for certain things, that maybe not everybody understands, but this group does understand. And not only do they understand, it feels like they carry you on your shoulders and, they get you across the finish line, which is, I mean, completely incredible. And I was able to make it to one of the trips to Mount Zion this year and got to meet many of the amazing FLBMD members in person. I didn't even know that in my adult life I can form such deep friendships so quickly. But it was just in that, even in that one weekend, I felt like I formed such deep bonds that I know, these women are going to be my friends for life. And people that you can truly look up to, that you can truly be inspired by on a day-to-day basis. And we are the sum of people we spend time with. So why not spend it with the most amazing humans on the planet? I feel like it's a no-brainer.
So good. Florence shared in chat, she echoed exactly what you said. She said, no judgment, only endless support. And for me, just like seeing that, it just feels so good. And that's why I love our weekly calls and going into the WhatsApp chat and being together when we're in person and just feeling that energy, because it is so special. It's so unique in adulthood, right? At any time in our lifespan, but in adulthood, to have that unconditional support and that growth mindset together. Weili, what would you share?
Just do it. Join us. If you loved what you're hearing, for these workshops, just join. Join and be an active participant, right? So put yourself out there. And I've done a lot of coaching because 5 years ago, this is when I started doing this. And when Elaine announced that so the first time I saw Elaine she was on this panel of like other real estate investor speakers. And I'm like one of the few people in the group who don't even do any active real estate. So I didn't really care that much about real estate, but I was just listening to Elaine, and I'm, out of like the maybe 5 or 6 other people on the panel. And I'm like, that woman is amazing. And I need to like learn more about her and hear more of her. And so that was like the, sort of how I got to know Elaine, and then I reach out to her and interview her on my podcast. And like, the more I know, the more delicious and amazing. And it just, everything, like, there is no, I mean, we're not a cult, but there is just, she's just really the most generous and creative and like thoughtful person. The one thing that I think is so interesting is I think Elaine is like much younger than most people in this group, in the group that she leads, and yet her wisdom is like centuries like beyond us, and that just speaks to who she is. She was born a wise soul. She went through so many things in her life, and one of the things that I remember when I was like, she's starting a coaching group. I mean, she's already financially independent. She has this successful, real estate business. And so I knew it was going to be good because I'm like, she's doing it despite all these things. And it's been true that this group is like her masterpiece. Like each of us and our growth is like her artwork. And she just keeps, as someone, herself, she gets a lot of coaching herself, and she's always growing. She's always bringing new things. I mean, she's telling me things I didn't even know existed. I didn't really know anything about breath work aside from like deep breathing. And she's bringing all of this in, and she's, making us pay attention to our breath. And there's just, and it's all weaved in to this big picture thinking. And the people that she attracts in this group are just, like I said, they're out of this world. And honestly, if you guys feel intimidated by the other people in this group, I think that's normal. I'm super intimidated by people in this group. As I look around, I'm like, these people are like powerhouses. They're scary. But the truth is they're human, and we're all vulnerable and honest and raw in this community. And so it's just amazing. And I that's why, the moment, every time she announces that, like, oh, we're, here's the new offer for the next year, like within minutes, I'm like, okay, I'm in. And it's just, for me, it's, I'm not the best student also, like, she's saying all this content and this weekly stuff. I don't even attend. I think it would be good if I attend like half of this. So, like an E student. But I just get so much out of this, every coaching session I attend, every replay I listen, like I said, even 50% is just so amazing. So I think some of us, maybe you just have like a little whisper, like, oh, maybe this is for me. I would encourage you. The thing is, life is short, and we don't know when, our last days will be. We don't know the last days of our loved ones. So this is an urgent thing. We all need to live an intentional life, a life by design, not a life by default. And the best time to have started was yesterday, but if we start today, that's the best thing we can do. So just listen to your gut and sign up. And after you sign up, introduce yourself, participate. Even if people here look scary to you, just be a part of this group, because this is one of the most loving and inviting and growth oriented communities I've ever seen. It's so special.
So good. I love it. Love it. Love it. And so many of you, thank you so much to my beautiful members and what you've put in the chat and sharing your experience. So go ahead and read the chat if you want to hear from many others who have experienced freedom and legacy as well. This is the part that I'm dying to hear as we wrap up our time here together. What's next for you guys, right? Now that you've really been doing visioning, your life has completely changed as a result of it. I find that is really where this kind of magic happens, right? Because you believe in it, right? There's a lot of magic at first, and I'm excited about where everyone is on their visioning journey. But at first there might be a sense of like, I'm not sure about that. I don't know. Should I write that down? And you've heard from these two, yes, write it down. Yes, make it bigger. Yes, make it even better than you could possibly imagine. Make it a bigger number, make it more descriptive, all of those things. But for the two of you who have done visioning, you've done coaching, you've done the work, and you're thinking about what's next for you, what is your future self telling you? Aditi, you want to go first?
So what I'm excited about for the future for next year is, as a group, we want to bring forward incredible opportunities for our investors. It's our investment family, and we want us all to succeed together. So we want to put forth like a diverse array of projects for them. We're working on some leads right now, and we're very excited about that for 2026. Two of my amazing partners on this call today, Meredith and Nicole. So just shout out to them. I love you guys. And so I think as far as as direction, I want to head that way. In terms of strategy, there's something I want to implement for next year, which came up, which what I learned from FLBMD. So when you join Freedom and Legacy, Elaine will teach you how to identify your zone of unique ability and your zone of genius, and I want to lean into that, and see what happens and see what magic happens. So I just want to be open to the possibility. I've never fully leaned into it. So I want to start doing that, embrace it wholeheartedly, and just jump in with my feet first, and just see what the future, has in store, and just again accept it with gratitude. And I think not tying myself to a result has helped. So I'm going to keep that going,
Mm-hmm.
with not tying myself to a result, but accept whatever comes with gratitude, but put in the work for the process. And that's what I'm excited about.
I am so excited for you and the ripple effect too, right? How this shows up in how you carry yourself and how you carry your father's legacy into your life, and bringing your father's legacy to your children, right? Even though they're young and they maybe won't have conscious memories of him, right? He'll be a part of who they are, as through the conduit of you, all of the investors that you're going to impact. Like, the ripple effect is just so beautiful to see it happen. Weili, what's your future self saying?
Keep living in flow, and keep embracing uncertainty and adventure. And I think legacy building. This We're only here, like Elaine, you encourage us to kind of have like a really long, infinite view, and it's scary because we're like, wow, like in 50 years, like, am I going to be here? I hope so, but what's going to be left on this earth of my impact and my influence? And so one of the things that I feel in my soul is to share with the world the transformational power of a venture. And I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, although in 2026 I am going to host a retreat for women physicians in Africa, but and see where that goes. But I feel this deep feeling, like intuition, knowing that I just need to share this with the world. People who maybe would never go to Africa or some of these places in the world that are just amazing, transformational, soulful places that I think will be unforgettable and changing their lives forever. And so I want to share that with the world, and kind of put out the spirit of adventure to everybody.
Do you have, besides that beautiful trip to Africa where you're going to bring so many other people into that goodness and into the fold, do you have other countries picked out for 2026, or do you kind of pick them out a couple months in advance? What's that process look like for you?
I already have the first half of the year picked out. Yeah, in January, we're going to this island called Socotra, which is it's sort of an island off of Africa. Actually belongs to Yemen, but it's not part of mainland Yemen, and it's camping. It's going to be like this huge stretch for the kids and us, because it's an amazing place. And then we're going to go to Bhutan and do some hiking and sightseeing there.
Wow. I have to hear the story of how you got a visa and all of that.
Yeah, we just have all these trips, and the trip to Africa, we have we try to plan ahead, so we're gonna have lots of adventures. It's just fitting the time in.
So good, so good. Ladies, we are right at 26 after the hour, and I know you both have such busy lives, and I'm so grateful that you're here tonight. I want to be respectful of your time, Aditi, for you to get back to your evening and your husband and kids. And Weili, I know you're on a balcony in Sri Lanka at 8 or 9 in the morning, and you're ready to get your day started there in that amazing part in the world. We've covered so much tonight. It's just been such a beautiful night. Thank you so much. I have a whole page of notes, and I know if I wasn't also facilitating, I would probably have had 3 or 4 pages of notes by now. Is there anything else you would say to someone who maybe let's say they've been part of this whole week, right? They did their reflection on 2025. They did their 10-year vision, their 3-year vision. Tomorrow, we're going to go into 1-year vision and quarterly planning. And that's where we're going to start to make things concrete. What would you say to someone as they're creating their 2026 and beyond? Weili, you want to start?
Trust yourself, listen to yourself, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to really dig deep into your heart and into your soul, and you might hear just a whisper of like, wow, wouldn't that be neat? Like I just get to know yourself, and then put that out there, put those desires out there, and put it out in the universe. And trust the process.
Yes, beautiful. Aditi, wrap us up tonight.
Yes, and I would say similar, the fact that you're even here today listening to this, I feel is a sign that the universe is telling you that more is in store for you and this may be a path. So just be open to all possibilities, and when Elaine says dream big, really dream big, because what you put down on paper is going to happen. So just be open to possibilities, trust the process, and just know that your future self is trying to say, hey, I created this workshop for you. Listen to me.
So good. I love you, ladies. I'll say it again. I wish I could give you a big hug in person. I can't wait until the next time we are in person that I can give you that hug. Thank you for being here tonight. I knew that this would be such a treat for me. And I spend, a ton of time with you guys every single week, but hearing it all in one hour and a half, hearing the story, hearing the transformation, the flow and the ease and the abundance that you're both living with. My hope is that for everyone listening, that you get a piece of this and that you feel like if it's possible for someone else, it's possible for me. And as social creatures, right, we know that we become the people that we surround ourselves with. And you get to take a piece of the stories that you heard tonight and incorporate it into your own self and bring it into your vision. I always say visioning is a great time to look at your neighbor's paper, right? We're taught not to do that in school. It's the exact opposite in visioning. You should be writing down like, well, Weili's traveling the whole world and Aditi's reaching financial freedom and expanding her real estate portfolio and doing so while having all of these amazing other things in her life. Like, be writing those things down, because that's how we expand into things that we didn't even know were possible before. So thank you both so much. What a joy it has been to be together this evening. If you're still here live, I would love it if you would just give a moment of gratitude to one or both of these ladies in the chat. Share something that resonated with you, like reflect it back. What I always say when we have someone who does a guest coaching or a peer coaching in Freedom and Legacy is speaking takes a lot of energy to pour out into others. And one of the ways that we can honor someone is pour that back into them by reflecting that back. So go ahead and pop that into chat. What's something you learned, something that inspired you, a little nudge from the universe that one of these ladies shared with you, and my team will make sure that we share that with them, that we memorialize that and get that over to them. So thank you both so much. What a joy it's been tonight. I wish we could just like stay on all night and just keep talking and keep sharing, but I want to be respectful of your time. So thank you both. Thank you for those of you who joined us live or caught this on the replay. Tomorrow on Thursday, November 20th, we have our 1-year 2026 blueprint, and we'll do our quarterly planning. That's going to be a really fun night where we take all of the expansion from the visioning workshops this week and we bring it tangibly into what it is that you want to create for 2026. We'll be doing a ton of work in the workbook. Even if you didn't catch the first 2 nights, maybe this is your first night joining us, tomorrow is meant to stand alone as well. I've really structured each of the nights so that you can participate in them discreetly, and then they all are part of the big story arc. And then on Saturday at 11 a.m. Central, this is the first year that I'm offering what I'm calling implementation coaching. It's kind of a bonus session We'll get back into our workbooks. We'll further hone that 2026 plan and the quarterly planning. And we'll work through any limiting beliefs that you have and prepare for any obstacles or challenges that might come your way. Weili did such a beautiful job of telling us of like, life has been a struggle in a lot of ways, right? While she's traveling the world and doing all these amazing things and feeling so aligned and peaceful in her heart, challenges have happened in the world, which is so true for all of us, right? But when we plan for those and we know exactly how we're going to keep ourselves regulated and aligned to our vision in advance, it makes it that much easier. And then also on Saturday, since I'll have a little more time, we'll be meeting at 11 a.m. Central. We'll also have an opportunity for what is called open frame coaching, where you just raise your hand and you ask any question that you have around visioning, your 10-year vision, your 3-year vision, your 1-year vision, quarterly planning, whatever it is that's come up this week. And I'll do live coaching with you so that you can experience exactly what it's like in Freedom and Legacy. And when I go into coaching with someone, I always think about how can we help them really move the needle forward on whatever it is, the question that's coming up. So that's what we have ready for you on Saturday. Tomorrow on Thursday, we meet at 7 p.m. Central. On Saturday, we meet at 11 a.m. Central. All of that will be in the replay emails in the Facebook group. You'll get text message reminders, all of those things. If it's on your heart to join us in Freedom and Legacy, I would be so honored to have you in 2026. Some amazing people joined yesterday when we opened enrollment for the first time in a year. You've heard from these amazing ladies who've been in Freedom and Legacy and the call that they have to you of if this is on your heart and you're feeling an inkling, we want to welcome you into this group. There's so much goodness here and I want you to be a part of it. You can see all of the details at freedomandlegacyblueprint.com. There's a pay in full discount or a monthly payment plan, whichever is easier for you. As we wrap up tonight, I want to honor my members who put so many beautiful things in the chat. I'm going to turn it over to Rachel. She's going to read some of the things that our members have shared in the chat so that you can hear it firsthand, what the experience is like in Freedom and Legacy. And then I will see all of you tomorrow, Thursday, November 20th, 7 p.m. Central. There's still time to invite a friend. Even if they haven't heard of the Visioning Workshops week at all, they'll still get a ton of value out of tomorrow where we plan our 2026. I'm going to turn this over to Rachel. Thank you, my dear. Thank you, everyone, for being here this evening.
Thank you, Elaine. And Weili, Aditi, thank you so much for sharing. I've had the honor of getting to be in your physical presence, and that just shines through, even on a Zoom screen. Just, you're both so beautiful, and you have this calm presence. And Elaine said her face hurts from smiling, so does mine. Those were really beautiful shares, so thank you for doing that. If you're listening podcast style or having a hard time following up with the chat, that's just going nonstop. I did want to share some of the very kind and honest and vulnerable words from other members of Freedom and Legacy as they've shared them this evening. So if you're considering Freedom and Legacy Blueprint, just let these words speak to you from our current members. Jenny said that Elaine immediately sees the heart of the issue with such beautiful clarity, with kindness and compassion. It's beautiful and life-changing in the best way. She also said that having her husband in the group has changed the language they use and how they have grown together in the most powerful way. I can attest to that. Jenny, you and Andy are a power couple. Pradnya shared that Elaine had incredible energy when they met. When the announcement for Freedom and Legacy first came out, it was a no-brainer to sign up. And 3 years later, I'm still here, and this group has been the most supportive community, and Elaine's coaching has been amazing. Jenny, with a Y, we differentiate, said, you know what I love, love, love? That many of us travel to see each other because the friendships formed in Freedom and Legacy are authentic. She also said, I'm a lifer. Rashmi said, I just joined Freedom and Legacy and the value is already incredible. Florence said, no judgment, only endless support. Roya said, my world expanded and my energy shifted with the wisdom and guidance in Freedom and Legacy and Elaine's coaching. She also said, what I love about Freedom and Legacy is the group reflects back to you the amazing version of yourself that is sometimes hard to see ourselves. Natasha said, what's next for all of us is looking at ourselves with no judgment, to feel what it feels like to be in a relationship of no judgment, by watching and learning from the coaching, and then watching that ripple effect carry out to our wholehearted missions to others. I think I've missed some because this chat has gone so quickly, but thank you all for sharing your words. This has been such a beautiful evening. Please feel free to share your visions, your experiences, your thoughts. Keep that love going for Weili and Aditi, who had such beautiful shares with us this evening in the Facebook group. We'll send the replay out tomorrow. We'll make sure that you get Weili and Aditi the chats with all of this love for you. But I would love if you guys can keep it going in the Facebook group as well, so it's memorialized there. I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow night. This has been such a beautiful night, and I can't wait to continue the visioning. So thank you guys.